So
Go back to
appreciated.
Go with Zoom or something else.
So you can actually stream with Zoom now, but I don't know what the whole setup is. And I don't know if you could do the restream thing. So, but I can look at it because I wouldn't mind using Zoom, but we couldn't use OBS.
Oh.
So those would be some of the drawbacks to all that. I mean, it is just doing NDI. If there are other NDI things out there, maybe. I don't know. Let's see here. All right, retweeting. Did you see you guys can schedule tweets now?
Been able to do that for years, haven't you?
No, you have to use a third-party thing.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I don't think so, but, maybe.
Wait, TweetDeck, you've been able to schedule tweets forever.
That would be
TweetDeck's third party.
Actually, it's not anymore. Twitter owns
TweetDeck. They own, Twitter owns them. What are you talking? So what are you saying? Why are we talking about this off this show?
I didn't think it was that big of a conversation.
You're making it a big conversation. So you can do it in Twitter Direct?
Yeah, in the web browser, yeah.
I don't see that.
Just do a tweet.
I am.
And then you have an option for a calendar right next to the emojis.
Nope, I don't.
Really?
I do.
So you only have
I do not.
You only have 3 or 4 icons down there?
I have 4. I have the image, GIF, a poll, and an emoji.
Oh, you don't have
GIF.
it. Oh,
GIF.
Interesting. So yeah, there's a new one. There's a new one coming. Okay, are we ready to get started?
Oh, look at that. A little shift refresh, and I got it now.
Yeah.
Not that I ever use Twitter. I don't use Twitter, but whatever.
Good morning from Austria. Hey, brother. Man, he is on point, man. Hey, we're getting ready to get started. So, you want to see something cool? Here we go. Did I get all that? All right, here we go. Check it out. Wait, hold on. Check it out. Shh, shh. Here we go.
You are listening to the PHP Ugly podcast, and despite what the title may lead you to believe, this is a podcast about the joys and challenges of being a professional PHP developer. Your hosts are 3 passionate developers who make a living coding, and who live stream every week to discuss coding, projects, work, tech, and running a business. And now, here are your hosts, Eric Van Johnson, John Congdon, and Tom Rideout.
Hey!
Finally!
Listen to that.
Finally!
She said PHP.
Well, let's be clear. In the ones we got prior to that one, she said PHP 99% of the time, except for the very first PHP Ugly.
Where she said PPH.
What was it? What did she say? PPH Ugly.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got to change up the intro a little bit, but you're listening to episode 192 of PHP Ugly, and I'm one of your hosts, Eric Van Johnson. With me tonight is John Condon.
She just said it 2 seconds ago.
But people, trust me, they have to associate the name with the voice, brother. There's science behind this.
Then why are we paying somebody to record for us when we could just record that intro for ourselves?
Hey, how's it going?
See how easy it is, John?
He's already told you that.
All you have to do is say hi. That's all you got to do.
Hi.
Jesus. So hey, I don't think a
also
whole
disproving
lot
the
went on
despite how it sounds part.
Pretty sure we can just wrap up the show. There's not a whole lot to talk about. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that'll greatly impact the web as a whole, or as it's legally defined.
Or yeah. I can't imagine.
All
right, let me.
I don't think there's
both
much.
of you. I've had a heavy drinking dinner with the wife, so don't ask any questions you don't want truthful answers to, because it could get.
By the way, happy 31 years for your wedding anniversary this week.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. 31 years that woman has put up with me.
Almost done.
Got Clay here from
What?
Almost done? Is that what you said?
That's
What?
what he
No.
said.
Are you planning on murdering my wife or something, or murdering me? Should I be aware of something?
I am not planning on murdering your wife, no.
Okay, all right. I'm just wondering, man. You seem pretty confident that it's almost done. Maybe you know something I don't.
Yeah, the other option was still on the table.
I mean, yeah, never take all the options off the table.
All right.
Like you mentioned, we have a jam-packed show
Jam-packed.
already. So much to talk about.
Oh man.
Where do we
Let's
start? How's your week been,
let's.
Mr. Van Johnson?
Uh,
We always go first, so I thought I'd change it up and you go first this time.
it's a rough week for me, John. I got to be honest with you. It's a rough one. We're packing up the office, and even though
I know.
we're not going out of business, I feel like I have to always prefix that because I was giving away the couch, and we're like, yeah, we're closing our office, and I go, oh, I'm sorry. It's like, no, we're not going out of business. We're just closing the office. We don't use the office, but it's like. It was a little special for me. I enjoyed having it a lot. I definitely used it more than anybody else, and it was my little oasis, my little man cave, I guess. And
Yeah,
we're losing it.
it really was your man cave. Like we moved in and like you put up shelves, like it became your space, which
There's
was
a pillow
awesome. It was
fort.
great to see.
Lots of pillow forts.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely sad to see it kind of going, but like we've talked about in the past, I didn't use it as much because in my home I've got a dedicated office space. So for me to drive 20 plus minutes each way or walk into an office was great. You, on the other hand, having that shared space makes it much more difficult to focus at times and just be able to work without interruption.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Speaking of interruptions,
And every
I think
yeah,
the
and
office
every
manager
time,
started to get it.
yeah, every time I tell people that we're closing the office as well, it's like, oh, is everyone working remote now? It's like, actually, everyone's ever since we started the business 7 years ago now,
Mm-hmm.
8 years ago. Holy crap!
Yeah,
Everyone's always been remote, and now we've had two different offices throughout the 8 years, and it's mostly been for us.
mm-hmm.
Our first office was I had newborns at home. It was hard for me to focus, so we opened an office for me to have a place to go. The second time, the one we're closing now, was we were getting together more as a group at coffee shops or restaurants, and our developers were saying, "Hey, we would like a place to get together," and we're like, "Okay, maybe it's time to get an office." And you and I went back and forth for what 6 months to a year before finally
I was about to say, I think
finding
it
a
was
place.
like another year before we finally decided.
We pulled the trigger, and then our developers showed up once in a while, but there was never a requirement. It's
Yeah.
now as of 2020, they're employees. We could say, hey, you have to come to the office, but we're not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so but besides that, I've been coding like crazy lately. I've been working on a project that I'm doing a lot of coding on. I'm continuing to find more and more reasons to enjoy
Ah,
the blade components.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Get out of the way, stupid microphone.
it's all right. I'm just trying to
This
figure out
is
what you're doing here.
It's a classic PHP ugly failure.
But yeah,
No, Florian is saying you need a beer keg in the new office. In my office, I have a mini keg back there. That's what I'm trying to show. It's right over there. Sorry.
uh, yeah, blade components came through again for me today. I mean, I'm. Did you by chance check out that video, John? I sent you.
I did, and you spelled it out correctly. You have a controller helper. You have some sort of class that can pre-fill your blade template for you. So it's a very it was very insightful to see. You put a simple tag in for this component, just like you would in kind of Vue,
Mhm.
but now you have a class associated with it that can pull in more data for you without having to put that logic into your controller.
Right.
You can say, if this component fires, oh, I need to go grab this data out of the database, or I need to make these calculations. So it kind of centralizes that space for that specific component.
Mm-hmm.
There are pros and cons I see to that is if you have multiple components all grabbing that same data, I don't know how Eloquent handles that. I know with Foam Burner, we use two different things now. We still have our legacy data objects that we're using, where every time you ask for an entity or some sort of record out of the database, it gets it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Whether if you ask for 1 or 10 times, you're going to get it that number of times.
Mm-hmm.
We've been introducing doctrine into the code base more and more, and my understanding from that is if you ask for a record by ID, if you've already gotten it, it just gives you the same object back. So that if you are manipulating it, you're not manipulating stale data by chance. You're working with the same entity. So I don't know how Eloquent handles that.
So is that considered caching?
Not necessarily caching. It's when I give you a user record, user record ID 1,
Mm-hmm.
and then another piece of code says, hey, I need user record ID 1, Doctrine gives you the same exact object. So if the first section of code updates the username or updates some piece of data, the code over here gets that updated data without having to query the database. Plus, it's one query to the database, not two.
Yeah.
So going back to your components, if your page has 20 components on it, all asking for the same piece of data, the same record out of the database, are you going to the database 20 times to get that data, or are you getting it one time?
Right. Yeah, I don't.
So caching.
What's that, Thomas?
Caching.
But
it's
there
not really
eloquent
caching.
caching,
It
though?
depends.
I mean, I know you can cache the results, but is it smart enough to say, hey, yeah, you've already asked for this record, I have it cached.
The real question is, are you getting the same object?
Right.
Because
I
if
think
you're
that's
not,
the
if
point
you're
you're
not,
making.
you have a race condition of I ask for it, I update it, I save it, where another section of your code may ask for the same one, change something different, and save it. Is your data colliding? Like, are you saving wrong data?
Right.
On top of that, are you doing unnecessary queries to the database? If you're going to heavily componentize, I don't know if I'm making up words now, your HTML or your Blade templates, are you doing a lot of extra queries because of that?
Jesus, John, you're shrinking in OBS. It's just getting smaller and smaller.
I could do it too.
And now I'm getting bigger and bigger. I'm not changing anything. My hands are I'm up here. I'm not doing anything. I say all that to say yes, I did watch the video, and it was very cool to see how that worked, and I could see that being very useful if I was a Laravel developer.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I found it very helpful. Thomas, you're being pretty quiet. You're freaking me out, man.
Yeah, I'm waiting for when the fact that we don't cover politics on this show gets brought up, so I can just explode.
We've covered politics on like every episode the past year, 2, 3. How long has
It's
he
been
in
3.
office?
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fake news, John, and it needs to be fact checked. And I'm gonna have to put
Nope,
a fact
nope,
check
nope,
onto
nope.
this podcast.
You cannot
now.
do that. You can't do that.
I absolutely will. All right, let's get into it.
But you can't.
Who knows even what the executive order says? Because I looked around for exactly what it's implementing.
Nobody.
Right.
So a draft of the executive order was released to Reuters, and they reported on it first, and everyone's basically reporting off of that for now. But
No, it's been signed.
yes, but we still don't have it.
It's out.
No, we still don't have it. We still only have the draft.
Let's take a moment and explain, maybe to our listeners out of the country, what's exactly happening. So over the last,
All right. So there's this gorilla named Harambe.
over the last, I don't know, 3 months now, our country has had a pandemic come at it in which our country's leadership took weeks, if not months, to respond to. We've had over 100,000 deaths from that pandemic, which our leadership took almost an entire day to acknowledge and doesn't talk about anymore. In one of the states here, Minnesota, Minneapolis to be exact, we had a law enforcement agent execute an unarmed citizen in the middle of the street in the middle of the day, which, again, our country's leadership has not really acknowledged or talked about. But our country's leader posted a completely false and fabricated tweet. Twitter decided that they're not going to take him down, they're not going to censor him, but it was time to implement a mechanism to allow for some understanding. And they implemented a fact-checking mechanism on his tweet. Within 12 hours, within 24 hours, that same president was able to create an executive order to address how social media platforms handle the freedom of
That's
speech.
not entirely true.
Okay, are you fact checking me now? Is that what happened?
Yes.
Okay, you're off the show.
So
don't talk. I'm muting you. You're out of here. Go ahead.
This executive order is actually something that he'd been planning for a long time, but it's so brazenly authoritarian that he never got a good reason to use it. And him being fact-checked by Twitter basically set him off and said, I'm doing it no matter how it looks. I don't care.
Where are you getting that information from?
Oh boy, that one was from New York Times.
Okay. You don't have to bring it up. I was just wondering how you knew that this is something he's basically had chambered for a while.
Yes, and he's talked about it publicly in the past. It's the reason that he was able to whip this thing up so quickly was that it's been a long-standing position of his that correcting people on social media is censorship.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, not that we need to be fair, Twitter didn't correct him. Twitter didn't pull him down. Twitter didn't ban him, even though he's broken every terms and condition in Twitter. All they did is add a link that says, hey, here's some more facts about what was just tweeted.
Well,
figure out yourself.
Okay, so that's the really interesting part about this is that the wording of this executive order would require Twitter to remove him from Twitter.
That would be funny.
Yeah, so here's the issue. There's Regulation 230 that applies to the internet, which states that companies are not responsible for things that are posted on their sites as long as they show reasonable attempts to curb illegal activity.
Okay.
This executive order
is this the quote unquote shield that Trump was saying these companies have been standing behind?
Right. So the shield is that, in his opinion, they can do anything they want to, and they're still protected because they're protecting the content of their site is protected by them. So they get to dictate the content of the site, and it gets really interesting what he's ordering. But basically, websites get to arbitrarily dictate the content of their site, even outside of their own terms of service and outside of their own stated intentions. So if a conservative website says you cannot post anything about Democratic candidates, then that's in their terms of service, then they're well within their right to say ban anyone who talks about Democratic candidates. But if there's one person who they do allow to talk about Democratic candidates, then the website is violating their own terms of service to allow this exception.
Mm-hmm.
That is currently allowed under the law because they're completely protected against all the content on the site, whether or not they modify it, fact check it, censor it, any of that. Once it's on their site, he believes that it's their content to do what they wish with.
Yeah, he was equating them.
That's contrary.
Yeah,
That's contrary to the protection of Section 230. Section 230 says it's not your content, so you're not responsible for it as long as it's not illegal. Whereas he's saying it is your content and you are responsible for it if you're editing it.
And his justification for that is he's stating, by he, we're talking about Trump, 45,
right?
That they're actually a media company at this point. They're not just a social. I don't know what else they would be. I mean, in my
a social platform.
Okay, but is every bulletin board now a social platform? I mean, where does that line draw?
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is that the line is drawn at Section 230, which states you're not a media company, you're a bulletin board.
Right. That's the thing. I don't get. I would love for I would love for Twitter to come out and say, no, we're not doing that to everybody, Donald Trump. We're just doing it to validated users, people we have validated on our platform, because they've gone through this extra step we had to make sure they are who they are. We're only doing it to them, really, just to you,
right.
To be honest, because you lie so much. But we can't say that.
Well, but see, he's the one who's getting it the least of the scrutiny from Twitter because they're afraid of the fallout from it. But he's broken their terms of service almost uncountable times,
yeah.
And to the point where people have asked, why is he still allowed on Twitter? He's broken their terms of service and he's being allowed to stay. His executive order is asking the Department of Justice to start investigating whether or not corporations are actually doing fair attempts at enforcing their terms of service, or is there an agenda, an undisclosed agenda behind the censorship and banning, which is still not illegal, but he wants it to be made illegal to have an undisclosed agenda. This is all part of something that's being called conservative censorship, which means that a lot of platforms aren't allowing outright racist and false information. And for some reason, conservatives believe that that's targeting them.
The thing is, and I haven't done research on this, so I could be completely wrong, but there are conservative social media platforms that probably are, obviously way to the right on what they post, how they post, and it's just going to be interesting. It's like, okay, who's accountable for what? When are you considered big enough where you need to follow these rules, or is there? I don't know, man.
What I really want to see is we've seen the fact checking on Republican or more conservative viewpoints of, hey, there's ballot fraud. Well, when you go to fact check it, it's not necessarily true. I would like to see examples of that on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I want to see examples of that on the other side where you get like the far left leaning posting something and you get the same fact checking of, hey, they're stretching the truth, or, you know, go check the facts here on what's being said.
Right.
Because you know it happens on both sides, but right now the conservative viewpoint is being amplified by Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I can give you an example.
Okay.
The truth about e-cigarettes.
You think that was a left?
It should be a left position.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, it's not. Well, I know the reason, but the the truth about the harm reduction and the way that states are going after e-cigarette manufacturers and users is disturbing.
Well,
But
and
what I'm saying
to
is,
give you,
but you're missing my point there.
yeah, I think to give
That's
you
true.
to
I
give
guess
you a
that's
better
I'm not getting.
better example,
Well, no, yeah.
John. I
So YouTube demonetizes anything that involves nicotine whatsoever. And so all of the e-cigarette YouTubers are cut out of the monetization loop. They can no longer make money on any of their videos.
Yeah, I think maybe a better example, John, maybe when you're looking for is I'm pretty sure there were Black Lives Matters activists who were targeted and taken down when not it, unbelievable that this is happening so many times in our country. I have to explain this, but not this recent event, but the previous event when an unjust murder happened. There was in that Black Lives Matter movement was really ramping up. I recall seeing articles of certain voices being taken down because they were inciting riots or what they were saying was just false. They were giving false information.
I okay. I want to again. I feel like I'm not communicating clearly. Has there been a time in Twitter where, just like they did with Trump's recent tweet, where they said, "Hey, go fact check this here"?
No, that was a first.
Have they done the same thing?
Yeah, see, the reason that doesn't happen, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, is that the the furthest left you can go is basically claims about CBD oil.
All right, Tom, hold on, time out. So
No. I'm
before
going.
before you even go
As
there,
far as claims of truth and fact go, you go to far right, and it's a completely made up lie factory.
Conspiracy.
Right? When you go far left, the conspiracy is basically that the government made marijuana illegal because corporations need to profit off of cancer medicine. And so like they are different strengths of factually incorrect.
right? And I think to address more of John's question, first, no, this was unprecedented. This was the first time they did it. They didn't have this workflow in place
To
before.
him.
They've never done fact check before. And
Oh yeah.
I okay, you can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure this was a first case. But
I know
more to your
Facebook's
point,
been doing it
John,
for a while.
you know where there are probably similar cases on the other extreme, but because of the bullhorn and how much attention this particular account has, I think Twitter felt like they needed to step in and do something. If you got a far left Twitter handle that had even half the followers that Trump has, or and made the same sort of claims on the other side, perhaps. But I think it was a combination of both. I think it was the just how far off, how absurd his statements were getting, and how much attention he had on his account that made Twitter say, okay, we need to think of this policy and then figure out how we're going to get this implemented. And
Mhm.
he became basically the genesis of it. So yeah, maybe he's patient zero. Thomas might prove me wrong on this, but now they're going to go all COVID on this thing and start rolling it out to more people. But Thomas, I mean, am I right or wrong? Is this a first time? It's okay if you did. I thought you had it up. Don't worry about it.
I think they implemented a year ago.
I mean, you're not going to be able to Google it now because everything's going to come up Trump right now. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
although I guess Zuckerberg says, I just believe strongly that Facebook shouldn't be the arbiter of truth of everything that people say online.
right. So Zuck's approach is kind of what Trump wants, right? Is he doesn't want any interaction from the platform. So Zuck also came back and said to prevent social media platforms from uh, what's it called?
But aren't they doing that already?
Yeah, they're doing it to websites.
Yeah.
So they have a little about this site thing in the corner of shared posts. But what they don't do is fact check individual comments or copy pasted text.
Oh, really? I did
thought,
not know that.
They fact check posts, don't they?
No, they just fact check sources.
Hmm.
So as long as you don't put a source down, you're good.
So anyway, Zuck's kind of comment on this executive order was, the way to address social media platforms from censoring people is not to censor the social media platforms, which I thought was a funny statement. But yeah, Facebook's kind of stand on this is, and this became evident with a lot of this white power postings that started happening is, hey, we're not censoring this stuff, and people really had to show that some of these posts were criminal, basically, and before they would act on them. But Zuck is very much a hands off. If you don't like what somebody's posting, don't follow them. Kick them out of your stream. But we're not going to police what people post here.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We've talked about this for way too long.
I agree.
There's other weird stuff going on too. Is that the president has a different right to speech than other Americans?
Not true.
There are absolutely true. Yep. There are laws protecting his speech differently. And that came up in Twitter a couple of years ago when he started blocking people, and the American law says that any communication from the president must be freely available to all citizens. So he literally can't block people on Twitter now.
That's not any different of freedom of speech, though. That's just saying you're a appointed official of the country or of the state. You're an appointed official. You can't block whatever public statements you make. So
yeah,
but he has no different freedom of speech than we have. He's not allowed to say things we're not allowed to say, sort of thing. But we need to move on. I hate politics, and this is why we had a pretty hard, fast rule of not talking about it on this show. But this one was hard to avoid.
I will lighten the mood,
Please,
on a funny story. No, let's move on from that. I have a funny story I want to share.
All right.
Good.
I've talked recently about being on a sprint team. We're doing sprints, these long 6-week sprints, and nothing to really talk about. Just to share a funny story that the requirements came down for some tasks, and it included screenshots. Like, hey, here's what you need to do. Here's what the way the screen needs to look at the end. But the system that is being used to manage all these tasks is a pain in the ass. So the front end developer is like, you know what? I'm going to take all the screenshots that were kind of littered throughout this this system and put them in a centrally located area, copy, paste all the files. The product manager or the product person came back and looked at it and says, "Oh, this is great. Thank you." That was first. Meanwhile, they're just copies of screenshots that are already done, and then said, "Oh, this isn't quite like the mock-ups we gave you." It was a copy of the screenshots that was given to him. It's just a it's just a funny story.
This is why we
You
need the
can't-
blockchain. Get that checksum and show it back to him.
You can't make this up. It's just like it's not the same, but it is the same.
It's literally the same. It's just not even kind of the same.
You screwed up here. But how? I didn't do anything. It's not done.
I got a
Oh,
PHP
all right.
question for you too. Feel free to jump
The
in.
answer's 42. 42. Done. Move on.
Try catch. What requirements do you put in around a block of code to say, okay, I'm wrapping this in a try catch?
Please elaborate. What do you mean? What requirements?
So for me, I find myself starting to do try catches whenever I make database calls, right? So if I'm making a database call, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put a try catch around this because I want to handle it if something goes wrong. And that's, but I started realizing, I'm like, I wonder what other people's kind of rule of thumb is. I mean, I'm sure not everybody's just doing database. It's like, what is it about the data you're working with where it says, okay, I'm going to do a try catch on this? Is it the requirement of certain?
No, it's very simple to me. If I can handle the exception that is thrown in some way, I try catch it. Otherwise, I let it continue to be thrown. If I can return a response to the user to say, hey, something happened, I will catch it and return that response. But if I can't do anything with it, why am I going to catch it?
I'll go you one further.
Okay.
I throw try catches around things that throw custom exceptions.
You throw try catches around things that throw your custom exception, like you create a custom exception, or
if I'm expecting, so if it's a database exception that I'm expecting, I throw a try catch around the main loop because everything uses the database, everything. If it's a curl exception I'm expecting, I throw try catch looking for a curl exception where I'm using curl. If it's a PDF renderer, I throw try catches that catch PDF library missing and PDF library error around the PDF library usage.
So basically, you're saying anything that can generate an exception, you throw a try catch around it.
Right, and depending on
whether you can handle it or not.
Right, and depending on how widely scoped that thing is where the try catch gets its scope.
So doesn't it? I guess this question goes to both you. Doesn't that, with both your kind of rules, doesn't that put try catches in a majority of your code base?
No. Laravel already comes with most exception handlers that I'm going to need. So I can write custom responses to a database exception, custom responses to curl exceptions because there's a standardized curl library for Laravel or things like that. So if I'm using the framework, I don't need to put try catches all over the place. If I'm using raw PHP and I'm correctly validating, then I don't need try catches there. If I'm accessing data from an outside source that I don't trust, then try catches might need to be there because I'm getting a 0 value when I expect a positive value or whatever. But even then, validation should be handling it before try catches. So for me, when I import a new library that's not part of my core framework where I've already got my exceptions handled, then I look at what exceptions it throws and handle those exceptions and gracefully fall from those.
But you're relying on global, basically error handling.
Mm-hmm.
You're relying on Laravel to catch the majority of your errors and do something.
Right, because the majority of my errors I'm not expecting, so I needed to throw a bug snag to tell me what happened and what I can do to fix it.
But you can
So
do that in a try catch
I
anyways.
Right.
yeah, I can I do that in not using Laravel. We do that in the index PHP where you basically do a try catch around the bootstrapping,
Right.
get things going. You catch throwable, you do a bug snag, but you can still show some sort of semi-friendly error page,
Mm-hmm.
which,
So
let's be honest, isn't helpful because there's no real like, hey, here's what happened. It's just something happened. We're gonna alert the techs.
Right.
I do a lot of image processing that uses the low-level image magic and GD libraries. And that's the place where it might fail, it might not, and I know that if it fails, I can safely return a value back saying it failed probably because of the image size or some not a valid image type, even though you named it .jpeg, whatever have you. So that's where I do a lot of try catches right now. There's also, get this, you're not going to like this answer at all. There's a coding methodology that uses try catches as a conditional.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where try catch final comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't make a connection to the FTP server, fail over to a backup queued job and then continue on. Or if the mail server isn't currently available, quietly fail, but queue it up in a backup mail server.
Why do you say I wouldn't like that? Because I agree with that.
Because there are people that use it as actual conditionals, where like if 1 equals 0, throw. People use it like validation. I've
Mhm.
seen validators that use validation exceptions instead of returning false or exiting, or like Laravel's validation system exits the loop early by returning a redirect back with session values set for what the error was.
Mhm.
There are a lot of other systems that throw an exception, and the exception handles the redirecting and the.
See, I think I'm more on that realm of using it for validation as well. To me, if I go into a method and it can't return a valid object or a valid string or a valid whatever the object is supposed to be doing, it's an exception to me. That way I have a single
I don't
return
disagree,
type. Okay.
but as a Laravel developer, not being accustomed to seeing exceptions being used for validation, it could be bizarre to see.
Hmm.
because it's validation in Laravel is almost in the middleware stack.
Which isn't incorrect. I mean, that's a great place to have it if you can validate at that point.
Right.
But at that point you're returning. I think isn't Laravel is basically just it passes or fails, and if it fails, you get information about it. It's not necessarily.
Almost, yeah. Roughly. I mean, if it fails, then then it looks up what failed, what the message for the failure was, and if there's a callable for that failure. So it actually accounts for all of the failures in the validation at once instead of the first one that it encounters, which if you're using exceptions, a validation exception is going to fail on the first one, not all of them.
See, this is the
So Eric, you brought it up. Where do you fall on this?
This is my little hand grenade question, man. I just drop it in the room and I run out. I let you... No, I'm surprised. I'm surprised by the response because I thought for sure the response was going to be, no, you're using it too much. Use try catch sparingly. Um,
Mm-mm.
I guess I'm okay with how much I'm using it. To Tom's point, making third party calls is another really good example of a try catch for me. But I just started getting like I was bouncing back and forth. I'm like, I don't think I'm using this enough. I think I should be doing try catch wherever I'm trying to return data to a user, just to make sure I have everything went properly. Then I start thinking, well, no, I'm overthinking this. That's too many try catches. That's basically my whole code base at that point. I started peeling back on it.
So that's
No,
where you create your own custom exceptions, and you handle them at the level that you think you should handle them.
But that's still a try catch. I mean, even if I create my own
right.
exception.
But if what you think is going to happen is that a view template is missing, and you create yourself a custom view missing exception,
Mm-hmm.
and then put that at the top level of your bootstrapping, then you don't have to put try catches everywhere. You can just know that one's handled, and you have a way of dealing with it.
Hmm.
Now, again,
right. It all depends on how you're handling it. Between if it's user facing, how are you handling it back to them? If you're not catching it somewhere, then you need to catch it earlier and handle it. If you're relying on Laravel or some other handling, error handling, exception handling, then make sure it's handled at that point. And if it's not, then you have to figure it out.
And that's the whole thing.
Now,
is Laravel, in my opinion, Laravel has pretty good exception handling.
Yeah, it has great exception handling.
That's Thomas's point.
Yeah.
Is 99% of the things are already handled by Laravel. It's you need to catch the things that Laravel doesn't already handle.
Well, but even using Laravel's exception, I'll still wrap that around a try catch. I mean, and maybe I'm using try catch wrong, but I thought try catch, or the way I'm using it, allowed me to catch an exception without the application breaking and try to recover from it.
Right. That is the idea. Is it's not do catch, it's try catch.
Right.
So try to do something, and if you can't do it, then do this other thing.
Right. So that's my point.
But
that's my
if you're in it,
John, is it does have a great exception handler, but if you don't wrap it with a try catch, then it just throws the exception in your code just barfs at that point.
No, more than that though, because Laravel has all of these defined custom exceptions, and you can give Laravel a default action to perform when that exception is thrown. So at the highest level, if a certain exception type occurs on my website, I throw either a 404 error or a 500 error, depending on what type of error it was. Now, because Laravel has all of that so well handled for Laravel related problems, the only thing you really need to worry about in a try catch situation is something you can get out of.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least something that you can report better on than Laravel can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, again, third-party stuff. Now, we also don't have to worry about this as much as strictly typed languages, because that's where try-catch originates from, is if I'm asking for user input and they input a string number 1 instead of a actual value number 1, I can try to use it as an integer, and if I can't use it in an integer, I can catch it and convert it to an integer, and finally perform the operation. So it's much more necessary in a typed language, because you're getting a lot of typed input and it has to be typed output.
It really, to me, it really comes down to where your exceptions are being thrown and how you want to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's an Ajax call and you're getting a 404, your JavaScript's going to handle that somehow,
Mhm.
right? If
I
you're able
also
to show some sort of error message to the user, catching it and showing that error message is better than getting to the final back to the index page where Laravel catches it and shows a generic message.
yeah. I also don't usually put try catches in unless I've already gotten an exception thrown by that thing and realized I can deal with that exception by catching it. Or if I import a new library and it has a list of exceptions I should anticipate, I implement those.
Hmm.
But if
That's
I'm just writing code and I'm not anticipating something I can recover from, if I'm anticipating my code to break, something else is wrong. Not having it in try catch is not the issue. Something else happened.
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I like well documented code that tells you what is going to be thrown.
I
so
like
that you
self-documenting code.
so that yeah. PHP Storm does a good job of telling me, hey, this method throws an exception that you're not handling. Do you want to handle it? And if not,
Yeah, PHP Storm
let
has been
it.
so good about that.
Yeah, if you don't want to handle it, add it to your doc block so that upstream code knows that, hey, this exception may be thrown.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't actually throw it and you don't catch it, upstream code doesn't know anything about it. So
Wow,
I've been
much deeper
liking
question
that.
than I thought it was.
Yeah, that it was.
So moving on, John, you have a ticket here that says "fuck Google,"
Yeah.
and it's just nothing else inside of it. No article or
Do you
anything.
do you really need anything more than that? I mean,
Nope.
seriously.
Let's move that to show notes.
That is the I am we've talked about our issues with Google in the past and the fact that we pay for an account and you can't use it for certain things. Add to that, recently, with this whole COVID-19 crap, my wife has been doing a lot of stuff with the kids in school. And she's like, "Hey, I would like for this Zoom call, I would like this shown up on the TV." Sure, that should be no problem at all. I start doing all the research. I have a Roku, and Chromecast. Have a Roku. I'm like, there's got to be a way to throw this up on the Roku. Try using her iPhone. That was a nightmare to begin with. I started researching. Oh, this is super easy with Android. Follow all the directions from my phone. I cannot see my Roku on my Android device. Getting super frustrated. Yes, I can Chromecast it, but it still looks like garbage for some reason because, Google to Google devices, it looks like garbage. That makes perfect sense. Do a little more research, and it turns out a Google specific device like the Pixel is blocked from casting or mirroring to a Roku. It works fine with other devices,
Unreal.
other Android devices like Samsung. It's like, but why? It doesn't make sense. So either the other devices take the Android OS and add the functionality to cast to a Roku or mirror, which seems like it's a standardized protocol at this point, or it's available in the Google specific devices like the Pixel block it because they really want you to cast, which would be fine if it looked good, but it still looks like crap and it's driving me crazy. So yeah, hence the title of my ticket, and you can now move on because I'm frustrated and you made me cry.
I've been working on a PHP thing lately, and a Laravel thing actually, and I need your guys' input.
But that's what
All
we're
right,
here
this is
for.
where I go to sleep.
I have a morph table.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it tags. And I have blog posts and YouTube videos.
Okay.
And they can share a tag.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a morph too many relationship there where I've got tags has a polymorphic taggable pivot table that links the three things.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What I can't do is get all YouTube videos or blog posts sharing this tag.
Why not?
That seems like that should be doable.
It does.
I thought that was the whole
Uh,
point. Is you could pull a tag, and because of that,
You
because
can
of that
pull
polymorphic.
either or. So in the tag morph, in the tag model, there's a YouTube method
Hmm.
that does the morph too many,
Yeah.
Oh, and
and
each
there's
their
a
own method.
blog to, yes,
Well, I mean,
but they
you could
are not shared.
you could pull both of them and then merge them.
I
Well,
can't because I've got millions of records and I need them sorted by when they were tagged,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to paginate it.
you could pull the tags themselves from there, get to the polymorphic relationship.
Right. So that would be a belongs to many relationship. And then I would
Mhm.
have to morph the relationship after I got it. But that involves having a pivot table that I have to call the morph on. I can't just say, now this is where it breaks down. The name of the function I'm looking for, and yes, I see you, Matt Lance, and you're wrong, but you'll understand in a minute. Been doing this for 4 days straight. What I'm looking for is a belongs to many morph method,
Okay.
or a morphs to many that accepts an array instead of a string as its relationship type.
I
I've
feel
looked
strongly that you can do this.
I've looked internally now. The reason that I've seen that you can't do this is because Eloquent doesn't want to return a collection of mixed models. Even though a collection technically supports different models in it,
Mm-hmm.
the way that they want it to be done is a collection returned by an Eloquent model only has that model's values in it, or one model's values in it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I did look at the source code for the belongs to many relationship and found where it dictates very specifically that only a string can be passed in, not an array. So I've seen where I can do this, but Laravel natively does not support it. So we have Matt Lance in Discord, and he's giving me the custom polymorphic types.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about custom polymorphic types is that allows for a mapping of the class name to an alternate name. But what it doesn't allow is sharing the same name among two classes.
Right. I think.
Matt's also recommending a length-aware paginator. However, a length-aware paginator only works once you've already fetched a result set. And in this case, I want it to fetch the result set and perform the morph for me. So I can do it by
You
just
want to be able to pull a list of tags. Tag 1 is to a YouTube. Tag 2 is to a YouTube and to a post. Tag 3 is just to a post. But you want to be able to get all those tags with all the related entities bundled
simultaneously.
in.
Right. And now the most interesting thing I found out about this when I was looking into it was that the language used in the morph relationship internally within Laravel just converts the query into a where this type equals this type and this ID equals this ID.
Right.
So morphs in Laravel aren't even something special. It's just shorthand for a small block of code. So like absolutely there is a way I could do this, but what I want is the method has many morph to or belongs to many morph, or passing an array in.
Sounds
And
like
I've seen a lot of people have this issue. Don't even tell me that I need to write it.
sounds like a PR, man. Sounds like a PR.
Or just write your own query. That's an easy query to write.
It is. So that's what I ended up at, was that this is actually something that's easy to write if you understand how morphs work internally.
Right.
But it took me 4 days to figure out how morphs work internally, and I decided that it's dumb that it's just a string instead of an array, because it would be such a simple change for someone who was familiar enough with Eloquent, which I'm not.
Get in there.
PRs are accepted.
It's open source, baby. GitHub Actions runs against it. You'll be fine.
Plus, if you open a PR, it'll be accepted in a day and make it right into the release.
Yeah, I could have it live by next Thursday.
It's like, release what, 7/14, 7/15?
Don't get me started. The other issue I ran into this is that if you look at the API, the Laravel API docs, there are so many undocumented morph commands.
Oh, really?
And so many. And they share the same description text as just morph to many or morphs by many. There's a ton of stuff that's just not documented.
I'm gonna say, diving into the API documentation, you can always find like these little gems of information in there. Because I mean, if you think about it, there's just
I believe that's how Laracast is currently written.
There's just too much to
what's
document.
not correctly documented in the API.
Right. Well, it's not even that. It's just too much to. If you documented every method, your documentation would just be so flippin' thick, nobody would read through it.
Well, I almost thought I found it, because there is a method called eager morph to many that doesn't have a relationship on it, but I couldn't get that to work. That's the other option, by the way, is a morph that doesn't require a relationship, that just fetches the relationship out of the table.
I still feel
I'm okay
like
with
there's a way to do this.
There's 3 solutions. There is a way to do it, but it requires more than one line of code. And what I'm looking for is that one eloquent command that says, this is what this relationship is.
I need to figure out Restream's chatbot and why he keeps re-chatting like 3 times every chat that goes out.
Hey, Thomas, are you on LinkedIn?
Oh man, LinkedIn sucks.
Why?
Why would LinkedIn suck?
I've been on LinkedIn a lot lately. It's one of the main streams of communication with a lot of recruiters. And it's always, LinkedIn always says, I just keep the tab open at this point, and it always says, hey, you've got a notification. And I click on the notification, and I read it, and it still says, hey, you've got a notification, until I click on it and then refresh the page. And this is such a 10 years ago problem, where it's like, if I have seen it, I should, the site should know I've seen it.
I don't think I have this issue. You might have.
It's because you don't go on LinkedIn.
You might have an extension installed or something that's like blocking the callback to let LinkedIn know you read something.
Well, no, see, that's the problem, is LinkedIn knows I read it, but it's not until I refresh the page that all of the JavaScript communicates properly and says hey, don't have a message popping up in the title bar, or a custom site icon, whatever it's called.
I got a message. I want to thank our Patreons. I was pleasantly.
Has it really been an hour?
I am pleasantly surprised. I logged into Patreon to update the slide. thinking, okay, how many names do I have to take off the list? And I did take a few off, but I added just as many back and had I think three new patrons. So we actually have more names on here than we typically have. I had to shrink the font. That's how many more patrons we had. I had to shrink the font so I can get everybody's name in here now. If you are a
So
patron,
I started realizing we don't push Patreon enough. My wife has been listening to podcasts with the kids, and we're in the car the other day going off to a park or something, and she found a new one that was highly recommended. And I swear, in the 10 minutes we listened, this person must have talked about their Patreon account like at least 3 times a minute. It was nonstop, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
is
We're
there an
obviously
extra
not
show
talking
here,
about
or is
it
this
enough.
Patreon?
It's always at the end of the show when people have clearly given up listening to us.
Yeah,
Well, see,
that's why we don't have more.
I always feel guilty because like the shows I hear, they like read off the names of all the Patreons. I'm like, should we be doing that? Like, some of these people. Buttery
No.
Carpet was our first one. He's been with us forever. Matt's on here. He's in chat. Frank's on here. He's in
Frank?
chat. Yeah. I don't know. I always
So
feel like we should say something.
one of the shows I listen to, which is aired live on Sundays, they make a point of talking about it at the beginning of the show, and they're like, somewhere in the middle, near the end of the show, we read off our top 5 Patreons. So there's still time for you to get in there and support us now.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, that's what we should
That
do.
is so.
If you
That is
become a
gross.
Patreon now, we'll mention you.
We'll mention.
Well, we don't do super chats, which like a lot of live broadcasters do now, which is even more profitable than Patreon. Do
Yeah,
you guys know what super chats are?
Yeah, yeah. When you're live streaming on YouTube.
you can
Yeah.
get special flares and stuff you can do. Yeah. You do get the point of it, the reason I haven't taken down the slide yet, not to shove Patreon down people's throat, but I want to promise the people who are at a reward level, we're wrapping up the office. I intentionally grabbed the reward level stuff and brought it home with me in a box, so that when I go back through that box to clean it out, I have them to mail out. So I have rewards level stuff here. I will find out. Tom's is showing you the reward level thing, the keychain. I will get those once the move of the office is done and I get things set up here at the house again. I'll get those in the mail. I promise you. You haven't been forgotten. We appreciate your support. Nobody's emailed me, so I don't even think a lot of people even realize they're at a reward state. But if you're there, you'll get your reward. I promise. Or you can sue John.
That's fine. I'll take it. I'm gonna go back to cleaning out the office a little bit. I packed up a truck today. I took the refrigerator from the office. I took 2 desks from the office. I took the water cooler, like a big TV. I cleared that place out. I get it all loaded into the truck, and then it hit me. I took the doors off the refrigerator to get it through the office door. I I put the open side towards the front of the truck.
Yeah. That didn't cause a
nice
lot
little
of
wind.
drag, did it?
Well, nice little wind catcher as I'm driving, like blowing the thing back. I pulled over twice. I pulled over once to turn it sideways so that it didn't catch as much. And then I got another like half mile to a mile down the road. I'm like, no, I'm gonna purposely tilt this thing back. And then I took a water bottle and shoved it under it so that it couldn't rock back towards the cab to try and keep it where it was supposed to be.
I
Because
wish
I had no tie
I
downs.
wish I had thought about. I was gonna say, I wish I had thought about it. I have straps. I could have dropped them off at the office. I didn't even think about it.
I have them too
Oh,
at my house, not at the office.
it's funny
I
the,
did.
the way you
It's
just
not
said
like I
that.
went fully
The
prepared.
way you just said, I took a water cooler. I just picture you like leaving the office like the jerk. Like, all I need is this refrigerator and this water cooler and this desk. That's all I need is this refrigerator, this water cooler, this desk, and this chair.
I kept going back and grabbing more stuff. I'm like, What else can I get out of here?
I made my first round this week, and I felt like I packed up 2 big boxes. I didn't take my desk or anything, but like I felt like as I was packing everything up, I'm like, this is going to be like 90% of the stuff. I'm pretty much done, and I get everything in my truck, and I come back in, I look at everything that's left behind, I'm like, holy crap, where did all this stuff come from? It's like I'm not close to done. I got so much shit I got to get out of here still.
There's so much stuff there.
Gosh, it's never ending.
We got a month. We got a month.
Get a month.
We'll get out of there.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. I think we're gonna wrap it up. Thomas, how do you feel? You got any more topics you want to talk about?
I have a small doom and gloom segment to give us a nice tight end to this uplifting and positive episode.
Do I have your? I haven't edited your doom. Oh, look at that! You're there. Your doom and gloom is up. Let's see. Let's hear it.
Yes, it puts me full screen and I look wonderful.
Yes, absolutely you do.
People have found that websites are port scanning their internal network using WebSockets.
Really? You better have documentation on this, buddy.
Shiner on Security is reporting that people using large sites such as banks, eBay, etc., are using the web browser's ports, WebSockets functionality to scan for a certain number of high-level ports that are given access to. Commonly, the VNC, the common VNC ports, the Windows Remote Desktop port, WinVNC, X Windows systems, Triplight UPSs, Real Audio.
We get the point.
And banks are saying, from what I've read, that this is a security measure to make sure that your system is not infected with some kind of keylogging, remote monitoring software. But this is only a week after I saw JavaScript projects saying, hey, did you know you could just include this in your NPM or include this port scanner in a suspect node module, and now every site that uses it is going to start port scanning for you on the internal network, not on the external. So this starts giving you access to things that are breaking firewalls.
Wow, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Keep it ugly.
Another quick note. I don't know what happened in Discord. I do have the new Discord link up here, but apparently we were able to have a vanity Discord because of something that was anointed to us by our Discord members. Like we had reached some sort of level that allowed us to have a vanity URL. I had not realized that. I just thought it was there. But yeah, apparently we're not at that vanity level URL point anymore. So if we want that back, we have to pay for it. And I'm like, it's not that important. I don't know. We have Patreons. Maybe I will pay for it again at some point. But you know what I did pay for? That's right. An outro.
We can't. We can't hear
You
it.
can't hear it? What?
Nope.
Damn it. Your lung. It says you can hear it.
Oh, I can't hear it. Okay. Well, I can't. Maybe everyone else can.
I'll kill it anyways. I need to fix the outro. She didn't like, we usually start the music way sooner, so I'm gonna actually clean up that outro. Thomas, you had a good request of asking her to do it without music in the background, because I'm going to fix that outro. But yes, apparently Matt didn't hear it either. Wow, that's weird. I'm sending it through the loopback. It should be getting to you, but that's fine. You'll hear it in the audio stream, Matt, and everybody else. I just made myself look like a fool while I'm sitting here dancing to the silence. Okay, so that was I set out the Discord. We said we took some Patreon money and did our intros, outros. 192, gentlemen. We are counting down to episode 200. and I expect big gifts from both of you. I don't care what it is, just something expensive and shiny. No? You suck.
As usual.
All right. I think that's it. John, you got anything else you want to talk about?
Nope.
All right.
I'm done.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to episode 190. Shit, 2? What were you at?
2.
192.
2. Yeah.
I'm Eric.
I'm John.
You're muted.
Yep, you're muted. Perfect.
You even did the keep it ugly. Take your time, Thomas. We're not going anywhere. Just be back. You're still muted. What the...
Keep it ugly.
We don't need your name. It's okay.
I'm Tom.
Keep it
Keep it ugly.
That was the worst ever. That was the worst ever.
No. That's borderline the worst ever.
So wait a minute. You guys don't... So the intro you must have heard through the speakers. If I play the intro again...
Yeah. I think it was through the speakers.
You're not hearing that.
Nope.
In case you guys missed the latest tweet, I just posted it in Slack.
What's the latest tweet?
When the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
From
The president himself. Not a retweet.
Are your hosts, Eric Van Johnson, Don Congdon.
You hear it now.
You hear it now?
There you go.
Okay, so that's why. And they didn't hear it on the tweet and the... Stop. Okay, they didn't hear it on the stream because the stream comes in through Skype and Skype wasn't using the loopback. So that's alarming. If Skype wasn't using loopback this whole time, that means you heard all that background noise, but whatever.
You're going to end up having to get a mixer.
I just talked to John about that this
We're
week.
talking about it.
Yeah. You know, we were just talking about that, actually. It's funny you should say that. Yeah, I don't know. I might. I was looking at the mics too. The what are they? XLRs, yeah. But I don't know.
I mean, mine is a pretty... It's the cheapest XLR setup you can get.
I mean, it's not even the mic. The mics themselves are only like $100 or so. It's the stupid little box that they have to plug into.
The Phantom Power, those are $25.
No, not Phantom Power. I forget what it's called. It's not a mixer, but it was something. It was...
No, you just need a Phantom Power. That's all you need.
The one I was looking at was like $100 and something bucks. I forget.
Nah, this whole setup on Amazon, you can get it for $42.
Mm.
And that's XLR to USB.
Right.
Through the Phantom Power. Oh no, that's not through the Phantom Power. So it's XLR to whatever this mic thing is called, a 3.5 millimeter. No, it's my whole setup was like $65 out the door, and then 3 weeks waiting from China. But if you get a mixer, mixers have Phantom Power and XLR hookups on them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like $120.
Yeah, I think that must have been what I was looking at. So I don't know, might do it. I've had such problems with mics for so long, and I don't know. It seems like now it seems to be working okay. What's Matt saying? I'm on the 6 month waiting for my weight set. Oh, weight set. You know what? I found out Matt actually has a podcast he's been holding out on us on. I forget the hell his. Matt, what's your podcast called? Give that a second to get to him.
I'm killing local, by the way.
Oh, he has things. I'll do that as well. He has a podcast called Almost PHP Amos. Almost famous, but it's PHP. There it is. It's in chat. I love that title, man.
What you?
versus
you said anus.
Amos. PHP Amos. Famous. Anus.
Yeah, you said PHP anus.
You said anus.
the first.
You're a horrible person. Let me kill this. Alright. There's something else
better
I
than
wanted
fugly.
to talk about, and I forgot to talk about. Shit, I forget what else it was I was going to discuss. Oh, damn, John. I was going to talk about how PHP Architect has moved to 2 podcast format. So
You still can.
well, show's over. I mean, for anybody interested, PHP podcast moved to a 2 podcast format. It seemed like it would be much more exciting if it was during the show. But yeah, now the
We had a lot of stuff to talk about on the show, but we didn't. So
I know, man. And what's funny is by the time I edit this, we'll still be at like 54 minutes, even though it says that we went for an hour and 20 minutes. All right, so man, we might switch back to the old OBS. I don't know. I need to figure out how to get y'all's images to stick where they freaking are. Let me take a look at, before you guys hang up, let me just take a look at OBS stuff again.
Oh, stop your local recordings.
We did.
we said that like 10 minutes ago. Where you been at?
Let's talk myself.
See, there's nothing. I know in the old OBS there was a way to just make this. Oh, so frustrating. So frustrating. All right. All right, man. Well, I don't have anything else to talk about.
Thank you, John, for the excellent LinkedIn segue.
Hey, what can I say?
Hey, what happened to your interview?
I'm just that good.
Didn't you have an open interview or something?
God, I guess I did.
Yeah. Like last week you.
Yeah.
I thought that was last
want-
Wednesday. I thought I talked about it, didn't I?
Well, just that
You want it on air?
just that you had it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, I'm waiting for the next word from them, which is I think going to be just a thumbs up or thumbs down
This was the guy
tomorrow or next week.
This was the guy that knew you played the Rocket League and you weren't sure how he knew that.
Still don't know. Still driving me crazy.
So, all right, everybody who's still here, appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. It was fun. We are going to stop the stream now. So, see you next week. Later. Bye, Matt.
Good night.
Bye, everybody
night.
else. Roger. Who else was here? There were more people. Roger was here. Somebody, what's his name in Austria said something. Florine and Clayton. Thanks, guys.
Florian.
Florian.